The smoke was so thick I could taste it through my mask. Black, oily, the kind that comes from burning plastics and chemicals. The kind that kills you slowly if the fire doesn't get you first. I had been doing this job for 17 years, and I knew the difference between a fire you could fight and a fire that was already winning. This one was winning. The Windsor Hotel had been a landmark on South Michigan Avenue since 1928. 8 stories of Art Deco beauty that had survived the Great Depression, 2 World Wars, and every economic downturn Chicago could throw at it. Tonight, on a freezing February evening with wind cutting through the city like broken glass, it was dying. I could hear Chief Morrison's voice crackling through my radio, sharp and urgent. All units, evacuate now. The structure is compromised. I repeat, evacuate immediately. Around me, my crew was already moving toward the stairwell. I could see them through the haze, dark shapes retreating like shadows. We had cleared the 6th floor. Found 3 people, got them out. The 7th floor was empty, or so we thought. But something was wrong. Something in my gut was screaming at me. I was at the East Wing corridor, and most of it had already been searched. The floor was buckling beneath my boots. I could feel the building shifting, groaning like a wounded animal. Every instinct I had developed over nearly 2 decades told me to turn around and follow my crew down those stairs. But there was one door left. Room 713. I had seen it when we first came up. Everyone else had gone right, toward the main section where the fire had started. I had gone left, checking rooms methodically. Every door I opened had been empty. Beds made. Luggage gone. The hotel had been evacuating since the fire started on the 3rd floor 40 minutes ago. 40 minutes. In fire time, that was an eternity. Lieutenant Bennett, report your position. Morrison's voice again, harder this time. I touched my radio. East Wing, 7th floor. Coming down now, Chief. But I wasn't moving toward the stairs. I was moving toward that door. The heat was intensifying. I could feel it through my turnout gear, pressing against my chest like a physical weight. The wallpaper was peeling, curling away from the walls in long strips. The carpet beneath my feet was starting to smolder. Somewhere below me, I heard a deep, thunderous crack. The building was coming apart. Bennett, get out of there now. I reached the door. 713. The numbers were brass, tarnished with age. My gloved hand touched the wood. Hot, but not burning. I tried the handle. Locked. This was the moment. The moment where I should have turned around. Where I should have trusted the evacuation, trusted that everyone was out, trusted the system we had built over decades of hard lessons and dead heroes. But I didn't. I stepped back and kicked the door just below the lock. Once. Twice. The old wood splintered and the door swung inward. The room was dark except for the orange glow seeping under the bathroom door. Smoke was pooling against the ceiling, thick and rolling. I swept my flashlight across the space. A bed, neatly made. A suitcase on the luggage rack, half-packed. A laptop open on the desk. Someone had been here. Hello. Fire department. Anyone here? Nothing. I moved deeper into the room. The bathroom door was closed. I could hear something behind it. A sound that made my blood run cold. Not the roar of fire. Not the crack of wood. Crying. Soft. Muffled. A child. Fire department. I'm coming in. I threw open the bathroom door and the heat hit me like a fist. The wall behind the toilet was glowing, the drywall scorched and blistering. The fire was right there, inches away, eating through the structure from the room next door. And huddled in the bathtub, wrapped in a wet towel, was a little girl. She couldn't have been more than 5 years old. Dark hair plastered to her face. Eyes wide with terror. She was shaking so hard I could see it from across the small bathroom. It's okay, sweetheart. I've got you. I scooped her up. She was so light it scared me. She wrapped her arms around my neck and buried her face against my shoulder. I could feel her heart hammering against my chest. The building gave another massive shudder. Dust and debris rained down from the ceiling. I turned and ran. The hallway was worse than when I had entered. The smoke was down to waist level now. Flames were visible through the doorways of rooms I had checked just minutes before. The fire was moving fast, feeding on the old wood and plaster, racing through the walls like a living thing. I hit my radio. "Chief, I've got a victim. Child. Female. Approximately 5 years old. Heading to the east stairwell now." There was a pause. A long, terrible pause. Then Morrison's voice came back, cold and controlled. "Copy that. Medics are standing by. Bennett, do not stop for anything. That building is coming down." I could hear it. The sounds a building makes when it is dying. Groans and shrieks of tortured metal. The crack and snap of wood. The rush of fire finding new fuel. I had heard these sounds before, but never this loud, never this close together. I reached the stairwell and yanked open the door. The girl whimpered against my shoulder. I started down, taking the steps 2 at a time, one hand on the railing, one arm wrapped around the child. 4th floor. 3rd floor. The stairs were shaking. I could feel the vibrations traveling up through my boots, through my legs, into my spine. The entire structure was oscillating like a tuning fork. 2nd floor. There was a sound like a cannon going off. The building lurched sideways. I lost my footing and slammed into the wall, twisting my body to protect the girl. She screamed, a high, piercing sound that cut through everything. "It's okay, baby. We're almost out. Almost out." 1st floor. I could see the exit door, glowing with the lights from outside. 30 feet. 20 feet. 10. I hit the door with my shoulder and we exploded out into the night. The cold air was a shock after the heat. The wind tore at my gear. I could see the lights, so many lights. Fire trucks, ambulances, police cars, all of them flashing red and blue and white. People everywhere. Firefighters. Paramedics. Civilians behind barriers. Hands reached for me. Someone took the girl. I heard voices, urgent and overlapping. "Get her to the bus. Now. Check her vitals. Where are her parents?" I bent over, hands on my knees, gasping. Even with the mask, my lungs felt raw. I pulled it off and sucked in the freezing air. It burned going down, but it was clean. It was beautiful. "Bennett." I straightened up. Chief Morrison was striding toward me, his face illuminated by the fire still raging in the upper floors of the hotel. He was a big man, broad-shouldered, with a gray beard and eyes that had seen everything the job could throw at him. Right now, those eyes were hard. "Chief, Not now. Get checked out by the medics. We'll talk later." He turned away, barking orders into his radio. I watched him go, then looked back at the building. The Windsor Hotel was fully engulfed now. Flames were shooting out of the upper windows, climbing into the night sky. Even as I watched, I saw the 7th floor buckle. The windows exploded outward in a shower of glass. The walls began to lean, slowly at first, then faster. "Everybody back. It's coming down." We ran. All of us. Away from the building, away from the heat and the light. I reached the inner perimeter and turned around just in time to see the Windsor Hotel collapse in on itself. It went down in stages. The top 3 floors first, pancaking into the levels below. Then the middle section, crumbling like a sandcastle. Finally, the lower floors, disappearing into a massive cloud of dust and smoke and debris that rolled outward like a pyroclastic flow. The sound was indescribable. A roar that seemed to come from the earth itself. I felt it in my chest, in my bones. And then, suddenly, it was over. Where the Windsor Hotel had stood for 96 years, there was now just a pile of rubble and twisted metal, still burning, still smoking, but defeated. Dead. I stood there, staring at the ruins, my mind trying to process what had just happened. If I had been 30 seconds slower. If I had listened to Morrison and evacuated when he ordered. If I hadn't trusted my instinct. That little girl would be dead. But I had disobeyed a direct order. I had put myself at risk. I had violated protocols that existed for a reason, protocols written in the blood of firefighters who had died doing exactly what I had just done. A paramedic appeared at my elbow. "Lieutenant, I need to check you out." I nodded and followed her to one of the ambulances. She sat me down and started her assessment. Blood pressure, pulse, oxygen saturation. The routine was comforting, familiar. "How's the girl?" I asked. The paramedic, a young woman with kind eyes and quick hands, smiled. "She's going to be fine. Smoke inhalation, minor burns on her feet. But she's alive because of you." I nodded but didn't say anything. I was watching the other ambulance, the one where they had taken the child. Through the back window, I could see her sitting up on the gurney. A paramedic was with her, holding an oxygen mask to her face. The girl's eyes were moving, taking in everything around her. She was alive. That was what mattered. Lieutenant Bennett. I looked up. A woman was approaching, flanked by 2 police officers. She was in her 30s, blonde hair pulled back in a ponytail, wearing a badge on her belt. "Detective, probably." "I'm Detective Catherine Walsh, CPD. I need to ask you some questions about the girl you rescued." "Sure. What do you need to know?" "Did you see anyone else in that room? Parents? Guardian?" I shook my head. "No. Just her. She was alone in the bathroom, hiding in the tub." Walsh frowned. "The hotel registry shows that room was booked to a Vanessa Torres. Single adult. No children listed." Something cold settled in my stomach. "Are you saying the girl wasn't supposed to be there?" "I'm saying we don't know who she is. The woman who booked the room hasn't been accounted for yet. We're checking the hospitals, the shelters, but so far nothing. And the girl won't talk. Won't tell us her name, won't tell us where her parents are. She just keeps asking for you." I looked back at the ambulance. Through the window, the little girl was watching me. Our eyes met across the distance. She raised one small hand in a tentative wave. I waved back. "Can I talk to her?" Walsh hesitated, then nodded. "Come on. But we need answers. The sooner we can identify her, the sooner we can find her family." I stood up, my legs unsteady. The adrenaline was wearing off and everything was starting to hurt. My shoulder where I had hit the wall. My knees. My back. I was going to feel this tomorrow. We walked over to the ambulance. The paramedic stepped aside to let me in. Up close, the girl looked even smaller. She was wearing pajamas, pink with unicorns on them. Her feet were wrapped in gauze. Her face was streaked with soot and tears. "Hey, sweetheart," I said softly, kneeling down beside the gurney. "My name is Connor. Can you tell me your name?" She looked at me with those big, dark eyes. For a long moment, she didn't speak. Then, in a voice so quiet I almost missed it, she whispered, "Lily. That's a beautiful name. Lily, can you tell me where your mommy and daddy are?" Her eyes filled with tears. She shook her head. "It's okay. You don't have to talk about it right now. But we need to find them. They must be very worried about you." "Mommy said to hide," Lily whispered. "She said to hide in the bathroom and not come out no matter what." My heart sank. "When did she tell you that, Lily?" "When the man came." Detective Walsh leaned in, her voice gentle but urgent. "What man, honey? Can you describe him?" But Lily had gone quiet again, her eyes distant. She was shutting down, retreating into herself. I had seen it before, in victims of trauma. The mind protecting itself the only way it knew how. "That's enough for now," the paramedic said firmly. "She needs to get to the hospital." Walsh nodded reluctantly. "Which hospital?" "Northwestern Memorial. We'll send a child protection specialist to meet you there." The paramedic closed the ambulance doors. I watched as it pulled away, lights flashing, siren wailing. Lily's face appeared in the back window, pressed against the glass, watching me until the vehicle turned the corner and disappeared into the night. "Lieutenant." I turned. Chief Morrison was standing there, his face unreadable in the flashing lights. "We need to talk. Now." I followed him away from the scene, away from the noise and chaos. We stopped beside one of the fire trucks, in a pocket of relative quiet. Morrison crossed his arms and looked at me for a long moment before speaking. "You disobeyed a direct order." "Yes, sir." "You put yourself at risk. You put the entire operation at risk." Yes, sir. You violated protocol. You ignored evacuation orders. You. He stopped, took a deep breath. When he spoke again, his voice was different, quieter. You saved that little girl's life. I met his eyes. I heard her crying, Chief. I couldn't just leave. Morrison nodded slowly. I know. And if you had left, if you had followed orders, she would be dead right now. But Connor, you have to understand. The protocols exist for a reason. They're designed to keep you alive. To keep all of us alive. When you ignore them, when you go rogue, people can die. You could die. I understand. Do you? Because this isn't the first time. Last year, the warehouse fire. You went back in for that dog. 2 years before that, the apartment building on West Madison. You stayed behind to check one more floor. And we found that elderly couple. I know. I know you've been lucky. I know your instincts are good. But luck runs out, Connor. Instincts fail. And when they do, when that building comes down on you, or that floor collapses, or that backdraft happens, you're not the only one who pays the price. Your crew pays it. Your family pays it. I didn't have an answer for that. He was right. I knew he was right. Morrison sighed and rubbed his face with one gloved hand. There's going to be an investigation. The department will want to review your actions. Internal affairs will probably get involved. And the media. He gestured toward the news vans that were setting up along the perimeter. This is going to be a big story. Firefighter defies orders to save child from collapsing building. They're going to make you a hero. I don't feel like a hero. Good. Because heroes are usually just people who survived their own bad decisions. He paused. Go home, Connor. Get some rest. Come by my office tomorrow afternoon. We'll talk about next steps. Yes, sir. I started to walk away, then stopped. Chief, thank you for not suspending me on the spot. Morrison's expression softened just a fraction. That little girl is alive because of you. Whatever happens next, don't forget that. I nodded and headed toward my car. The scene was still active, crews pouring water on the smoldering ruins, investigators beginning their preliminary work. But my part was done. For tonight, at least. The drive home was a blur. I lived in Lincoln Park, in a small apartment I had rented after the divorce 3 years ago. It wasn't much, just a one-bedroom with a view of the alley, but it was mine. A place to sleep between shifts. A place to not think about everything I had lost. I parked on the street and climbed the stairs to my third-floor unit. Inside, I stripped off my clothes and stood under the shower until the water ran cold. I watched the soot and ash swirl down the drain, turning the water gray, then clear. But I couldn't wash away the memory of that little girl's face. Her eyes. Her voice. Mommy said to hide. When the man came. What man? Where was her mother? Why was a 5-year-old child alone in a hotel room during a fire? I dried off and collapsed into bed, but sleep wouldn't come. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw the building collapsing. Heard the roar of the fire. Felt the weight of Lily in my arms. Around 4 in the morning, I gave up. I got dressed and made coffee, strong and black. Then I sat at my kitchen table and stared out the window at the dark street below. My phone buzzed. A text message from an unknown number. This is Detective Walsh. Wanted to let you know Lily is stable. Still won't talk much, but she keeps asking about you. Child Services is working on placing her temporarily. If you want to visit, let me know. I stared at the message for a long time. I should stay away. This wasn't my case. I had done my job. I had saved her life. That should be enough. But it wasn't enough. I typed back. I'll come by tomorrow. What room? The response came quickly. Pediatric ICU, 4th floor. Thanks, Lieutenant. I think it would help her. I set the phone down and watched the sun come up over Chicago. The city was waking up. People heading to work. Lives continuing. But somewhere in that city, in a hospital bed, a little girl named Lily was alone and scared. And somewhere else, maybe alive, maybe not, was the woman who had told her to hide. The man. Who was he? What had he done? I didn't know. But I had a feeling I was going to find out. Whether I wanted to or not. I didn't go home after my shift ended at 7 in the morning. Instead, I drove straight to Northwestern Memorial Hospital. The building rose against the gray winter sky like a monolith, all glass and steel, and the quiet hum of life being saved or lost behind those walls. I had been here countless times before, following ambulances, checking on victims, giving statements to investigators. The place smelled the same as always. Disinfectant and floor wax and something underneath that you could never quite identify. Fear, maybe. Or hope. The fourth-floor pediatric ICU was quieter than the rest of the hospital. Softer colors on the walls. Cartoon characters painted in the hallways. It was an attempt to make the place less terrifying for children, but it never quite worked. Kids knew. They always knew when something was wrong. Detective Walsh was waiting for me at the nurse's station. She looked tired, dark circles under her eyes, her hair pulled back in the same ponytail as last night. She was holding a coffee cup that looked like it had been refilled too many times. Lieutenant Bennett. Thank you for coming. How is she? Physically, she's fine. The burns on her feet were superficial. Smoke inhalation was moderate, but her lungs are clear now. Emotionally. Walsh shook her head. She's shut down. Won't talk to the social workers. Won't talk to me. The only person she's asked for is you. Any luck finding her mother? Nothing. The woman who booked the room, Vanessa Torres, is a ghost. The credit card used was stolen 3 months ago in Denver. The ID she showed at check-in was fake. We've run Lily's photo through missing children databases. Nothing. It's like they don't exist. A cold feeling was spreading through my chest. What about the fire? Any determination on cause? Walsh's expression darkened. Arson. Accelerants on multiple floors. Whoever said it knew what they were doing. They wanted that building to come down fast. She paused. Connor, this wasn't an accident. Someone tried to kill everyone in that hotel. And based on what Lily said about a man, I think she and her mother were specific targets. The floor seemed to tilt under my feet. You think someone set that fire to get to them? I don't know. But I need to find out. And the only person who might be able to tell me is in that room, and she won't talk to anyone but you. We walked down the hallway. Through the windows of the patient rooms, I could see children hooked up to machines, parents sitting vigil beside their beds, nurses moving quietly from room to room. The casual tragedy of it all hit me like it always did. All these lives hanging by threads. Room 412 was at the end of the hall. Through the window, I could see Lily sitting up in bed, staring at the TV mounted on the wall. It was showing some cartoon, bright colors and cheerful music, but she wasn't watching it. Her eyes were unfocused, distant. She hasn't slept, Walsh said quietly. Every time she closes her eyes, she wakes up screaming. I took a breath and pushed open the door. Lily's head snapped around. When she saw me, her face transformed. The blank expression melted away and she smiled. It was tentative, fragile, but it was real. "Hi, Lily," I said, walking over to the bed. "Remember me?" She nodded. "You saved me." "I did. And I'm so glad you're okay." I pulled a chair over and sat down. Detective Walsh stayed by the door, giving us space but close enough to hear. "Lily, I need to ask you some questions. Is that okay?" Her smile faded. She looked down at her hands, picking at the hospital bracelet on her wrist. "It's about your mommy," I continued gently. "We need to find her. Can you help us do that?" Silence. Long enough that I thought she wasn't going to answer. Then, so quietly I almost missed it. "She's gone." "Gone where, sweetheart?" "I don't know. The man took her." I exchanged a glance with Walsh. She had her notebook out now, pen poised. "Can you tell me about this man? What did he look like?" Lily's breathing started to quicken. I could see panic rising in her eyes. "Hey, it's okay. You're safe now. No one can hurt you here." "He was big," she whispered. "And he had a scary voice. Deep. Like a monster." Did you see his face? She shook her head. Mommy made me stay in the bedroom. But I heard them. They were yelling. Mommy was crying. She kept saying no, no, please. And then her voice broke. And then she told me to hide in the bathroom. She said no matter what I heard, I had to stay there. She said someone would come for me. Tears were streaming down her face now. I reached out and took her hand. It was so small in mine, fragile as bird bones. You did exactly right, Lily. You were so brave. I heard the door slam. And then it got really hot. And there was smoke. I was so scared. I know. But you're safe now. She looked up at me with those huge dark eyes. Are you going to leave? The question hit me harder than I expected. I have to go home sometime. But I'll come back. I promise. 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 She seemed to accept this. Her breathing slowed. She leaned back against the pillows, exhausted. A social worker appeared in the doorway, a woman in her 50s with gray hair and a kind face. I'm sorry, but Lily needs to rest now. We can continue this later. I stood up, but Lily's hand tightened on mine. Don't go. I'll be right outside. Just for a little bit. I promise I'll come back. Reluctantly, she let go. I walked out into the hallway with Walsh and the social worker. We need to place her, the social worker said. Her name tag read Janet Holloway. Child Services is working on emergency foster care, but with her refusing to communicate, it's complicated. She has no identification. No medical records. We don't even know if Lily is her real name. How long until placement? Walsh asked. A few days, maybe. In the meantime, she'll stay here. I looked back through the window. Lily was watching me, her small face pressed against the glass. I'll stay with her, I heard myself say. Both women looked at me in surprise. Lieutenant, that's not necessary, Holloway began. She's terrified. She won't talk to anyone else. And if Detective Walsh is right, if someone is looking for her, she needs protection. Walsh nodded slowly. He's right. Until we know what we're dealing with, Lily could be in danger. I'll arrange for a patrol unit outside her room. I can take a few shifts, I added. When I'm not working. Just until you find placement. Holloway looked uncertain, but finally nodded. I'll have to clear it with my supervisor. But given the circumstances, I think we can make an exception. I spent the rest of the day in that hospital room. Lily slept fitfully, waking every hour or so with a cry. Each time, I would talk to her quietly until she calmed down and drifted off again. When she was awake, we watched TV together. I told her stories about the fire station, about the other firefighters, about anything I could think of that might distract her from whatever horrors were replaying in her mind. Around noon, my phone rang. Chief Morrison. Bennett, where are you? Northwestern Memorial. With the girl from last night. A pause. Connor, you need to come in. The investigation meeting is in an hour. Can we reschedule? She won't let me leave. No. This is mandatory. Internal Affairs wants your statement about last night. The fire marshal's office is involved. The mayor's office is asking questions. You need to be here. I looked at Lily. She was awake now, watching me with worried eyes. I'll be there. Give me an hour. I hung up and turned to Lily. I have to go to work for a little while. But Detective Walsh is going to stay with you. And there's a police officer right outside your door. You're safe. You're coming back. I promise. Walsh came in and I briefed her quickly, then headed out. The drive to the firehouse took 20 minutes through downtown traffic. Engine Company 47 was housed in a brick building in the Loop, close enough to the high-rises that we could respond quickly, old enough that it still had the brass pole and the smell of diesel and decades of smoke in the walls. I walked into Chief Morrison's office to find it crowded. Morrison behind his desk. A woman in a suit from Internal Affairs. A fire marshal investigator. And someone I didn't recognize, a man in an expensive coat with the look of someone who worked downtown in an office with a view. Lieutenant Bennett, thank you for joining us, Morrison said. His tone was formal, careful. This is Deputy Fire Commissioner Robert Ashford." The man in the expensive coat nodded. "Lieutenant, hell of a rescue last night." "Thank you, sir." "Sit down. We need to go over your actions." For the next hour, I walked them through everything. The initial call, the conditions inside the building, the evacuation order, my decision to check the last room, finding Lily, the escape. I kept my voice level, factual, the way I had been trained to deliver incident reports. When I finished, there was silence. The internal affairs investigator, a sharp-faced woman named Patterson, spoke first. "Lieutenant, you understand that you violated direct orders from your commanding officer?" "Yes." "You understand that your actions put yourself and potentially other firefighters at risk?" "Yes." "Then why did you do it?" I met her eyes. "Because I knew someone was in that room. I could feel it." "Feel it?" she repeated flatly. "That's not procedure, Lieutenant." "No, it's not. But if I had followed procedure, that little girl would be dead." Ashford leaned forward. "Lieutenant Bennett, no one is questioning the outcome. You saved a child's life. That's commendable. But we have rules for a reason. If every firefighter made decisions based on their gut feeling instead of following orders, people would die, including firefighters." "I understand that, sir." "Do you?" "Because looking at your record, this isn't the first time you've bent the rules. 3 other incidents in the past 5 years where you've stayed behind or gone back in against orders." I didn't say anything. There was nothing to say. Morrison cleared his throat. "Commissioner, Lieutenant Bennett is one of the best firefighters I've ever worked with. His instincts have saved lives. But I agree that we need to address this pattern of behavior." "What are you suggesting?" I asked. "Mandatory counseling," Ashford said. 3 sessions with the department psychologist. And you're being placed on administrative leave pending the completion of the arson investigation." The words hit me like a punch. "Administrative leave?" "Paid leave," Morrison added quickly. "It's standard procedure when there's an investigation involving potential misconduct." "How long?" 2 weeks, maybe more. Depends on how fast the fire marshal's office works." I stood up. "Is that all?" Ashford studied me for a moment. "Lieutenant, I want you to understand something. The media is all over this story. You're being called a hero. The mayor wants to give you a commendation. But inside this department, we have to maintain discipline. We have to hold our people to the highest standards. Do you understand?" "Yes, sir." "Good. Take your leave. Talk to the counselor. And for God's sake, stay out of trouble." I walked out of that office feeling like I had been gutted. 2 weeks off. Mandatory counseling. An investigation. All because I had saved a little girl's life. But even as anger burned in my chest, I knew they were right. I had broken the rules. I had put myself at risk. And if I kept doing it, eventually my luck would run out. I drove back to the hospital. Lily was awake when I arrived, and her face lit up when she saw me. "You came back. I told you I would." I sat down beside her bed. Walsh was gone, replaced by a uniformed officer stationed outside the door. The TV was still on, playing the same mindless cartoons. "Lily, I need to ask you something. It's really important." She looked at me with those solemn eyes. "Okay. Do you know your last name?" She bit her lip, thinking. "Mommy always just called me Lily. What about where you lived? Can you remember your address?" She shook her head. "We moved a lot. Mommy said we had to keep moving." "Why?" "Because of the bad man. She said he was looking for us." My skin went cold. "The same man from the hotel?" "I think so. She never said his name. Just the bad man." "How long were you running from him?" Lily's face scrunched up in concentration. "A long time. Since I was little." Since she was little. She was 5 years old now. How young had she been when this started? "Lily, did your mommy have a phone? Or a computer?" "She had a phone. A little one. She kept it in her pocket all the time." Do you know what happened to it? No. I didn't see it in the hotel. The man had taken it. Had to have. Along with Vanessa Torres, whoever she really was. If we could find that phone, we might be able to track her. Find out what happened. Walsh came back around dinnertime with takeout burgers and fries. Lily ate mechanically, not really tasting the food. I tried to keep the conversation light, asking her about her favorite things. Colors. Animals. Foods. Trying to build some kind of profile that might help us figure out who she was. But every road led back to the same place. A mother and daughter on the run. A mysterious man hunting them. And a fire that had nearly killed everyone in its path just to get to them. I'm going to step out and make some calls, Walsh said when we finished eating. Connor, you okay here? Yeah. We're good. After she left, Lily looked at me seriously. Connor. Yeah, sweetheart. Is my mommy dead? The question hung in the air between us. I wanted to lie. Wanted to tell her that everything would be okay, that we would find her mother and they would be reunited and this nightmare would end. But I had learned a long time ago that kids could smell a lie from a mile away. I don't know, I said honestly. But a lot of people are looking for her. And we're not going to stop until we find her. Lily nodded, accepting this. If she's dead, will you take care of me? Something cracked inside my chest. Lily, there are a lot of people who will make sure you're safe. Social services will find you a good home with people who will love you and take care of you. But I want you. I looked at this little girl, this child who had lost everything, who had been abandoned in a burning building, who had no one in the world. And I saw something in her eyes that I recognized. The same thing I had seen in the mirror for the past 3 years. Loneliness. I'll visit you, I said. As much as I can. I promise. She seemed to accept this, though I could see the disappointment in her face. She was 5 years old and she had already learned that adults break their promises. That night, I stayed in the hospital room. The nurses brought me a blanket and I slept in the chair beside Lily's bed. Every time she stirred, I was there. Every time she cried out in her sleep, I talked her back down. Around 3 in the morning, she woke up screaming, thrashing against the sheets. Lily, it's okay. You're safe. I'm here. She was shaking violently, her eyes wide and unfocused. I moved to the edge of the bed and pulled her into my arms. She clung to me like I was the only solid thing in a world that was falling apart. I dreamed about the fire, she sobbed. I dreamed I couldn't find the door. I was trapped. You're not trapped. You're safe. I've got you. Slowly, her breathing calmed. Her grip loosened. She pulled back and looked at me with red, swollen eyes. You saved me. Yes. Why? The question caught me off guard. What do you mean? Mommy always said people don't help unless they want something. What do you want? Jesus. What kind of life had this child lived? I don't want anything, Lily. I saved you because that's my job. Because it was the right thing to do. She studied my face, trying to determine if I was lying. Mommy said we couldn't trust anyone. She said the bad man had people everywhere. People who would pretend to be nice but were really helping him. I'm not working for anyone. I'm just trying to help. Promise. I promise. She laid back down, her hand still gripping mine. Within minutes, she was asleep again. I sat there in the darkness, listening to the beep of monitors and the quiet sounds of the hospital at night, and wondered what the hell I had got myself into. The next morning, Detective Walsh came by with news. Her face was grim. We found Vanessa Torres. My stomach dropped. Where? Industrial area on the south side. Abandoned warehouse. She's been dead for at least 12 hours. Multiple stab wounds. I closed my eyes. Does Lily know? Not yet. I wanted to tell you first. Connor, this is now a homicide investigation. And Lily is our only witness. She's 5 years old. She didn't see anything. She saw enough. She can identify the man's voice. She knows they were running from him. She might know details about her mother that could help us figure out who she really was and why someone wanted her dead. You want to question her? I have to. This is a murder investigation. I looked back at the room where Lily was sleeping, finally peaceful for the first time since I found her. Give her today. Let her rest. Tomorrow, we'll talk to her together. But I'm not letting you push her too hard. She's been through enough. Walsh considered this, then nodded. Tomorrow. But Connor, there's something else. The fire marshal's report came back. The accelerant used was military grade. Whoever set that fire had training. Professional training. This wasn't some random arsonist. This was a hit. A hit that killed 7 people. 8 now, counting Vanessa. And it would have been a lot more if you hadn't gotten everyone out when you did. I ran my hand through my hair, trying to process this. What are you saying? That Lily's mother was involved in something criminal? I'm saying I don't know. Her fingerprints aren't in any database. Neither are Lily's. They're ghosts, Connor. And ghosts usually have a reason for disappearing. The day passed in a blur. I called my ex-wife, Julie, and told her I wouldn't be able to make our scheduled call that evening. She was understanding, as she always was. We had been married for 8 years before the job finally wore us down. The missed dinners. The cancelled plans. The nightmares that would wake me up at 2 in the morning, gasping and sweating. She had tried. God knows she had tried. But eventually, she couldn't take it anymore. Be careful, Connor, she said before we hung up. I know you. You're getting attached to this girl. I'm just trying to help. I know. But remember what happened last time. Last time. She meant the Wilson case, 4 years ago. A teenager named Marcus Wilson who had been trapped in a car accident. I had pulled him out, stayed with him through surgery, visited him in the hospital. His parents were drug addicts who didn't care. He had no one. So I tried to be there for him. It hadn't ended well. This is different, I said. Is it? I didn't have an answer for that. That evening, Janet Holloway from Child Services came by with an update on Lily's placement. She was a kind woman, but even she looked troubled. We're having difficulty finding an appropriate placement, she admitted. Most of our foster families aren't equipped to handle a child with this level of trauma. And given the security concerns Detective Walsh has raised, we need somewhere that can provide protection as well as care. What are you saying? I'm saying it might take longer than we thought. A week. Maybe 2. And in the meantime, she stays here, with hospital security and police protection. I looked through the window at Lily. She was awake now, staring at the ceiling, her small face empty of expression. I could take her. Holloway and Walsh, who had joined us, both turned to stare at me. Connor, that's not possible, Walsh said. You're not a licensed foster parent. There are procedures. Then I'll start the procedures. I've got the space. I've got the time. I'm on leave anyway for the next 2 weeks. It takes months to get licensed, Holloway said gently. Background checks. Home studies. Training. We can't fast-track that just because you saved her life. So she stays here. In a hospital. Alone and scared. She won't be alone. We'll have staff with her around the clock. Staff. Not family. Not someone she trusts. Holloway sighed. I understand your concern, Lieutenant. But there are rules. We can't just hand a child over to someone, no matter how good their intentions. I knew she was right. But it didn't make it any easier. That night, after everyone had left and Lily was asleep, I sat in the darkness and thought about my life. At 42 years old, I was divorced, childless, living alone in a small apartment with nothing to show for 2 decades of service except scars and nightmares and a growing collection of commendations that sat in a box in my closet. I had dedicated my life to saving people. But who had I really saved? I pulled them out of fires and car wrecks and collapsed buildings, handed them off to paramedics, and moved on to the next call. I never knew what happened to them after. Never knew if they went on to live good lives or if the trauma broke them. I just saved them and let them go. But Lily was different. Maybe because she was a child. Maybe because she had no one else. Or maybe because when I looked at her, I saw something I had lost a long time ago. Hope. The next morning, Detective Walsh came back with a child psychologist, a woman named Dr. Sarah Chen. Wait, no. Dr. Rebecca Morrison. She was in her 40s, with gentle eyes and a calm demeanor that put people at ease. I'm going to talk with Lily, she explained. Try to help her process what happened. But I'll also be asking questions that might help the investigation. Is that okay with you, Lieutenant? As long as you don't push her too hard. I won't. I promise. We went into the room together. Lily was awake, picking at her breakfast. When she saw me, she smiled. When she saw the strangers, the smile faded. Lily, this is Dr. Morrison. She's here to talk with you. Is that okay? Lily looked at the doctor, then back at me. Are you staying? If you want me to. I want you to. So I sat in the chair while Dr. Morrison pulled up another chair close to the bed. Walsh stood by the door, notebook ready but trying to be unobtrusive. Lily, I heard you've been very brave, Dr. Morrison began. Can you tell me about the night at the hotel? Lily's hands clenched the bedsheet. I don't want to. I know it's scary. But sometimes talking about scary things makes them less scary. And it might help us find the person who hurt your mommy. At the mention of her mother, Lily's eyes filled with tears. Is she dead? Dr. Morrison glanced at Walsh, who nodded slightly. Yes, sweetheart. I'm so sorry. Your mommy died. Lily didn't cry. She just sat there, staring at her hands, her small body absolutely still. When she finally spoke, her voice was hollow. I knew. I heard her screaming, and then it stopped, and I knew. Can you tell me what you heard? The man came to our room. Mommy told me to go in the bedroom and close the door. But I listened. I heard him say she had something that belonged to him. Mommy said she didn't. She said she didn't know what he was talking about. But he didn't believe her. Did your mommy say anything else? She said, please don't hurt my daughter. She said Lily didn't know anything. She said she would do anything if he just left me alone. The tears were flowing now, silent and steady. And then he laughed. He said he was going to make sure I didn't know anything. My blood went cold. He was going to kill her, Walsh said quietly. That's why he set the fire. To make sure there were no witnesses. Dr. Morrison continued gently. Lily, do you know what your mommy had that the man wanted? No. We didn't have anything. Just clothes. We left everything behind when we ran. When did you start running? A long time ago. I don't remember not running. Do you remember where you lived before? Lily shook her head. Lots of places. Hotels mostly. Sometimes apartments, but never for long. A few weeks. A month. Then Mommy would say it was time to go again. Walsh was writing furiously in her notebook. Dr. Morrison leaned forward. Lily, I know this is hard. But did your mommy ever talk about why you were running? Did she ever mention the bad man's name? For a long moment, Lily was silent. Then, so quietly we almost missed it, she whispered a single word. Vincent. Walsh's head snapped up. Vincent. That was his name. I don't know. I heard Mommy talking on the phone once. She was crying. She said, Vincent, please, you have to stop. She said she didn't mean for it to happen. She said she was sorry. When was this? A long time ago. Before we started moving all the time. Walsh and Dr. Morrison exchanged glances. This was the first real lead we had. Lily, you've been so brave, Dr. Morrison said. Is there anything else you can remember? Anything at all? Lily looked at me, her eyes pleading. Can I be done now? I'm tired. Of course, I said, standing up. You've done great, sweetheart. Dr. Morrison and Walsh left the room. I started to follow, but Lily grabbed my hand. Connor. Yeah. What's going to happen to me now? I sat back down and took both her hands in mine. We're going to find you a safe place to live. With people who will take care of you and love you. And I'll come visit you as much as I can. But not forever. What do you mean? You're going to leave too. Everyone always leaves. The words hit me like a hammer. This little girl, 5 years old, had already learned the hardest lesson life had to teach. That nothing lasts. That people leave. That love is temporary. "I'm not going anywhere," I said. "Not unless you want me to. Promise. Promise." She laid back down, exhausted from the questioning. Within minutes, she was asleep. I stood there for a long time, watching her breathe, wondering what the hell I was doing and knowing I couldn't stop even if I wanted to. In the hallway, Walsh and Dr. Morrison were deep in conversation. When they saw me, Walsh waved me over. "We need to find Vincent," she said. "If that's the suspect's real name, it gives us something to work with." "You think it's that simple?" I asked. "You're going to search for every Vincent in Chicago?" "In Illinois. In the Midwest. Whatever it takes. Connor, this guy killed 8 people. He's dangerous. And as long as Lily is alive, she's a threat to him. She's 5 years old. She's a witness. And witnesses get eliminated." The words hung in the air between us. "What are you saying?" "I'm saying we need to move her. Somewhere safe. Somewhere he can't find her." "Like where?" "A safe house. We use them for witnesses in organized crime cases. High security. Armed guards. No one gets in or out without clearance. She's a child, not a mob informant. She's also the only person who can connect this Vincent to the murder and the arson. That makes her valuable. And valuable things get protected or they get destroyed." I looked back at the room where Lily was sleeping. "When?" "Tonight. The less people who know where she is, the better." "I'm coming with her." Walsh started to protest, then stopped. "Actually, that might not be a bad idea. She trusts you. She'll be more cooperative if you're there. Let me make some calls." By that evening, everything was arranged. A safe house on the outskirts of the city. 2 U.S. Marshals for security. Full communications blackout. No one except Walsh, her captain, and a few select people would know the location. When I told Lily we were leaving, she didn't ask questions. She just nodded and held out her hand for me to take. A nurse had found some clothes that fit her, jeans and a sweater, sneakers that were a little too big. She looked like any normal 5-year-old kid. Except for her eyes. Her eyes were ancient. We left through a service exit, Walsh and I flanking Lily, the 2 marshals ahead and behind. The car was waiting in the loading dock, an unmarked sedan with tinted windows. We got in quickly and pulled away into the night. The safe house was a small ranch-style home in a quiet suburb 40 minutes outside the city. Normal looking. Unremarkable. The kind of place no one would look twice at. Inside, it was sparse but comfortable. 2 bedrooms. A living room. A kitchen. Bars on the windows and reinforced doors that would take a battering ram to get through. One of the marshals, a woman named Thompson with sharp eyes and a no-nonsense attitude, gave us the rundown. "You don't leave. You don't make phone calls except on the secure line. You don't contact anyone without clearing it through Detective Walsh. If you see anything suspicious, anything at all, you hit the panic button." She pointed to a small red button mounted on the wall near the door. "We'll have eyes on the house 24/7. You're safe here." "How long?" I asked. "Until we catch this guy. Or until the trial, whichever comes first." After the marshals left to take up positions outside, Lily and I were alone in the house. It was quiet. Too quiet. The kind of quiet that makes you hear every creak and groan of the building. "Are you hungry?" I asked. Lily shook her head. "Tired." "A little." I showed her to one of the bedrooms. It was small but clean, with a bed covered in a floral comforter and curtains that matched. Someone had left a few stuffed animals on the pillow. Lily picked up a teddy bear and held it against her chest. "This was nice of them." "Yeah, it was." I helped her get ready for bed, feeling awkward and out of my depth. I had no experience with kids. Julie and I had talked about having children, but between my job and her career as a lawyer, we kept putting it off. And then we were divorced and it was too late. Lily climbed into bed and looked up at me. "Will you stay until I fall asleep?" "Of course." I sat in the chair beside the bed. She clutched the teddy bear and watched me with those serious eyes. "Connor." Yeah, sweetheart. Do you think the bad man will find us? No. You're safe here. I promise. She seemed to accept this. Her eyes started to drift closed. Just before she fell asleep, she murmured something so quietly I almost missed it. I wish you were my daddy. Something broke inside me. Something I didn't know was still whole. I sat there in the darkness, listening to her breathe, and felt tears running down my face for the first time in years. I had spent my entire adult life running into burning buildings, facing down fires that could kill me in seconds, pulling people out of impossible situations. And I had never been afraid. Not really. Fear was something you pushed down, something you ignored, something you learned to live with. But sitting in that room, watching a little girl sleep, I was terrified. Because for the first time in a very long time, I had something to lose. 3 days in the safe house felt like 3 weeks. The walls seemed to close in a little more each day, the silence broken only by the ticking of the clock in the kitchen and the occasional crackle of the marshal's radio from outside. Lily was quiet most of the time, withdrawn. She would sit on the couch with her teddy bear and stare at the television without really watching it. Sometimes I would catch her looking at me with an expression I couldn't quite read. Hope, maybe. Or fear that I would disappear like everyone else in her life had. I tried to keep her occupied. We played simple games with a deck of cards I found in a drawer. We colored in books that Thompson had brought. I told her stories about the firehouse, about the guys on my crew, making them funny and light, leaving out all the dark parts. She would smile sometimes, small fragile smiles that broke my heart. On the 4th morning, Detective Walsh came by with news. She looked tired, lines etched deeper around her eyes, her hair pulled back in a messy ponytail. She had been working this case non-stop, I could tell. We got a hit on Vincent, she said, keeping her voice low so Lily wouldn't hear from the living room where she was watching cartoons. Vincent Marsetti, 46 years old. Enforcer for the Giordano crime family out of New York. Multiple arrests for assault, extortion, and suspected in at least a dozen murders. Never convicted. The guy is smart and he's connected. I felt my stomach drop. Organized crime. Jesus. It gets worse. We think Vanessa Torres was really Vanessa Marsetti, Vincent's wife. The room seemed to tilt. His wife. She disappeared 8 years ago. Took something from the family. Money, we think. A lot of it. Vincent's been looking for her ever since. And now we know she had a daughter. I looked toward the living room where Lily was sitting, small and innocent, completely unaware that her entire life had been shaped by her mother's decision to steal from the mob. Does Lily know that her father is a mobster who murdered her mother? No. And I don't think we should tell her. Not yet. She's been through enough. Her father. The words tasted bitter. Vincent is Lily's father. DNA will confirm it, but yeah, we think so. And he tried to kill her. Walsh's expression was grim. He killed 8 people trying to get to her and Vanessa. I don't think he has much in the way of paternal feelings. I ran my hands through my hair, trying to process this. What happens now? We've got a warrant out for Vincent. Every cop in the city is looking for him. FBI is involved now too. It's just a matter of time before we bring him in. And Lily. She stays here until it's safe. Could be a week. Could be a month. And then what? Foster care. Walsh hesitated. Connor, there's something you should know. Vincent has rights. Legally, he's her father. If we can't prove he tried to kill her, if we can't make the charges stick, he could petition for custody. The floor disappeared beneath my feet. You're joking. I wish I was. Family law is complicated. Blood relations matter. Even if he's a known criminal, even if her mother was running from him, unless we can definitively prove he's a danger to her, a judge might grant him visitation. Maybe more. Over my dead body. Walsh put her hand on my arm. I know. I feel the same way. But we have to follow the law. The best thing we can do is build an airtight case. And for that, we need Lily to testify about what she heard that night. She's 5 years old. I know. But she's also our best witness. Connor, I need you to work with her. Help her remember. The more details she can give us, the stronger our case. I wanted to refuse. Wanted to tell Walsh that Lily had been through enough, that she deserved to just be a kid for a while, to not have to relive the worst night of her life over and over. But I knew Walsh was right. If we didn't stop Vincent, if we didn't put him away for good, Lily would never be safe. Okay, I'll try. After Walsh left, I went into the living room. Lily looked up at me with those big dark eyes. Was that the detective lady? Yeah. Is she going to catch the bad man? She's trying. Lily turned back to the television. Connor. Yeah, sweetheart. If they catch him, will I have to see him? The question caught me off guard. Maybe. Someday. Why? Because I remember his voice. From the hotel. And I'm scared that if I see him, I'll remember other things too. What kind of things? She was quiet for a long time. When she finally spoke, her voice was small and distant. I think I knew him. Before. When I was really little. I have dreams sometimes. About a big man with angry eyes. And Mommy crying. And being scared all the time. I sat down beside her and pulled her close. You're safe now. No one is going to hurt you. You promise. I promise. But even as I said the words, I wondered if I could keep that promise. Vincent Marsetti was a professional killer. He had resources, connections, and somewhere out there, he was looking for his daughter. That night, I couldn't sleep. I lay in the small bedroom staring at the ceiling, listening to the house settle, every creak and groan making my pulse jump. Around 2 in the morning, I heard Lily cry out. I was on my feet instantly, crossing the hallway to her room. She was sitting up in bed, tangled in the sheets, her face wet with tears. Hey, it's okay. Just a dream. He was here, she sobbed. The bad man was here, and he was taking me away, and you couldn't stop him. I sat on the edge of the bed and pulled her into my arms. It was just a dream. You're safe. I'm right here. She clung to me, her small body shaking. Don't leave me. I won't. Not ever. The question hung in the air. I thought about my apartment, my job, my life, the investigation, the mandatory counseling, everything waiting for me back in the real world. Not ever, I heard myself say. She pulled back and looked at me. Do you mean it? Yeah, sweetheart. I mean it. Something shifted in her expression. The fear receded, replaced by something that looked almost like trust. Can I sleep in your room? I don't want to be alone. Sure. I carried her across the hall and tucked her into my bed. She curled up on one side, clutching her teddy bear. I lay down on the other side, leaving space between us. Within minutes, she was asleep. But I lay awake, staring into the darkness, wondering what I had just promised and if I had any hope of keeping it. The next few days fell into a routine. Lily seemed calmer with me nearby. We ate meals together, watched movies. She even laughed a few times, genuine laughter that made the walls of the safe house feel a little less oppressive. And slowly, carefully, I started asking her questions. Not about the fire. Not yet. But about her life before. The places she and her mother had lived. The things they had done. I was looking for details. Anything that might help Walsh build her case. Lily remembered fragments. A motel in Nevada with a pool that was always empty. An apartment in Colorado where they had stayed for 3 months, the longest they had been anywhere. A diner in Wyoming where her mother had worked nights and Lily had sat in a back booth doing coloring books. We were always moving, Lily said one afternoon as we sat at the kitchen table working on a puzzle. Mommy said we were on an adventure. She said we were explorers looking for the perfect place to live. Did you ever find it? Lily shook her head. Mommy said the perfect place doesn't exist. She said home is just wherever we were together. I had to look away so she wouldn't see the tears in my eyes. Your mommy sounds like she was a good person. She was. She was scared a lot, but she tried to hide it. She would sing to me at night. Made up songs about being brave and strong. She said as long as we had each other, we could face anything. Do you remember any of the songs? Lily thought for a moment, then started to sing, her voice soft and surprisingly clear. "Don't be afraid of the dark, my love. Don't be afraid of the night. I'll be right here beside you. Everything will be all right." It was a simple melody, sweet and sad. When she finished, she looked at me with tears streaming down her face. "I miss her so much." I pulled her into my arms and let her cry. There was nothing I could say that would make it better. No words that could fill the hole her mother's death had left. So I just held her and let her grieve. That evening, Walsh called on the secure line. "We've got a problem." My stomach dropped. "What kind of problem?" "Vincent's gone dark. He's not at any of his known addresses. His associates aren't talking. It's like he vanished. Maybe he left the country. Maybe. Or maybe he's getting ready to make a move. Connor, I'm doubling security at the safe house. And I need you to be extra vigilant. Anything unusual, anything at all, you call it in immediately." "Understood." After I hung up, I checked all the windows and doors, even though I knew the marshals had already done it. I checked the panic button. I even looked under the beds and in the closets like I was checking for monsters. Because that's what Vincent Marsetti was. A monster. And monsters were patient. They waited in the dark. And then they struck. 2 more days passed without incident. Lily was getting restless, asking when we could leave, when she could go outside, when things would go back to normal. I didn't have good answers for her. Soon, I would say. Just a little while longer. But I could see the light fading from her eyes. She was withdrawing again, spending more time staring at nothing, less time playing or talking. The walls were closing in on both of us. On the 8th night in the safe house, something woke me. A sound. Faint. Wrong. I lay perfectly still, listening. There it was again. A scraping noise. Metal on metal. Someone was trying to pick the lock on the back door. I rolled out of bed silently and checked on Lily. She was asleep in her room across the hall. I pulled her door closed quietly and moved toward the living room. The panic button was on the wall near the front door. 10 feet away. I could make it in seconds. The scraping stopped. I heard the soft click of the lock disengaging. I lunged for the panic button and slammed my palm against it. Instantly, alarms started shrieking. Lights flooded the property. I ran to Lily's room and scooped her up, still wrapped in her blanket. "What's happening?" she cried, disoriented and terrified. "Stay with me. Don't let go." I heard shouting from outside. Gunfire. Sharp cracks that made my ears ring. Lily screamed and buried her face against my shoulder. The front door burst open. Marshal Thompson came in, weapon drawn, her face grim. "We've got a breach. Multiple hostiles. We need to evacuate now." She led us out the front door. The yard was chaos. 2 more marshals were engaged with figures in the darkness. Muzzle flashes lit up the night. I could hear engines, vehicles approaching fast. Thompson pushed us toward an unmarked car parked in the driveway. "Get in. Stay down." I threw open the back door and dove in with Lily. Thompson jumped in the driver's seat, and the car was moving before she even had the door closed. We fishtailed out of the driveway and onto the street, tires screaming. Behind us, I could see headlights. 2 vehicles. Coming fast. "They're following us," I said. "I know." Thompson was driving like a professional, weaving through the quiet suburban streets, running stop signs, pushing the car to its limit. But the vehicles behind us were gaining. Lily was sobbing against my chest. I held her tight, one hand on her head, trying to shield her from whatever was about to happen. "Hold on," Thompson shouted. She yanked the wheel hard to the right. We skidded around a corner, nearly going up on 2 wheels. One of the pursuing vehicles tried to follow but took the turn too fast. I watched through the rear window as it clipped a parked car and spun out, crashing into a telephone pole. But the other vehicle was still there. Right on our tail. I could see the driver now, a man with cold eyes and a face I didn't recognize. Thompson was on her radio, calling for backup, giving our location. But we were in the suburbs. Response time would be minutes. We didn't have minutes. The pursuing vehicle rammed us from behind. The impact threw me forward. I twisted my body to protect Lily, taking the hit on my shoulder. Pain exploded down my arm. Thompson fought for control. We swerved, but she kept us on the road. Up ahead, I could see the highway. More traffic. More witnesses. More help. Almost there, Thompson said through gritted teeth. The vehicle hit us again, harder this time. I heard metal crunching. The back window shattered. Lily screamed. And then we were on the highway. Thompson merged into traffic at 90 miles an hour, cutting off a semi-truck. Horns blared. The pursuing vehicle tried to follow but couldn't navigate the traffic. I watched as it fell back, trapped behind the slower vehicles, unable to catch up. Thompson didn't slow down. She kept driving, weaving between cars, putting distance between us and our attackers. Finally, after what felt like hours but was probably only 10 minutes, I heard sirens. Chicago PD, converging from multiple directions. Thompson pulled onto an exit ramp and into a gas station parking lot. Within seconds, we were surrounded by police cars. Officers with weapons drawn, approaching cautiously. Thompson lowered her window and held up her badge. U.S. Marshal. I've got a witness in protective custody. We need secure transport immediately. It took another 20 minutes to get everything sorted out. Detective Walsh arrived, looking shaken. She came over to the car where I was still sitting with Lily. Are you two okay? We're alive. The safe house. Compromised. They knew exactly where we were. Walsh's face went pale. That's impossible. Only 6 people knew that location. Well, someone talked. Or someone figured it out. Either way, Vincent found us. Walsh ran her hand through her hair, thinking. We need to move you again. Somewhere else. Somewhere no one knows about. No. She looked at me in surprise. What? I said no. Every time we run, Vincent finds us. Every time we hide, he gets closer. This ends now. Connor, you're not a cop. You can't. I'm not going to hunt him. But I'm not going to keep hiding either. Lily needs stability. She needs to feel safe. And she's not going to feel safe being shuffled from one hiding place to another. Walsh stared at me like I had lost my mind. So what are you suggesting? Take us somewhere public. Somewhere with people around. Somewhere Vincent can't just walk in and take her. That's insane. Is it? He found the safe house. He'll find the next one too. But if we're in plain sight, surrounded by witnesses, he can't make a move without exposing himself. Walsh was quiet for a long moment, thinking it through. There's a hotel downtown. The Riverside. We use it sometimes for witnesses who need to be accessible for court proceedings. High security. Cameras everywhere. Private floors we can lock down. Do it. An hour later, we were checked into a suite on the 14th floor of the Riverside Hotel. 2 officers stationed outside the door. Cameras covering every angle of the hallway. It wasn't perfect, but it was better than another isolated safe house. Lily was exhausted, emotionally and physically. I ran her a bath and she sat in the warm water, quiet and withdrawn. When I helped her out and dried her off, I could see bruises forming on her arms where I had grabbed her during the car chase. I'm sorry, I said, touching them gently. I didn't mean to hurt you. You were protecting me, she said simply. It's okay. I got her dressed in clean pajamas that Walsh had picked up from a store. She climbed into one of the beds and pulled the covers up to her chin. Connor. Yeah, sweetheart. Are we going to die? The question hit me like a physical blow. No. We're not going to die. How do you know? Because I won't let anything happen to you. I promise. She looked at me with those ancient eyes. Mommy promised too. I didn't have an answer for that. So I just sat on the edge of the bed and held her hand until she fell asleep. The next 3 days were tense. Walsh and her team were working around the clock, following every lead, bringing in every known associate of Vincent Marsetti for questioning. But no one was talking. The mob had closed ranks. And Vincent remained a ghost. I spent the time with Lily, trying to give her some sense of normalcy in the middle of the chaos. We ordered room service. Watched movies. She drew pictures at the desk, always the same thing. A house. A family. A little girl holding hands with a man who looked suspiciously like me. "Is that your daddy?" I asked once, pointing to the stick figure. She looked up at me, her expression serious. "No. That's you." My throat tightened. "Lily, you know I'm not your real father." "I know. But I wish you were." On the fourth day, Walsh came by with news. She looked different. Energized. Like someone who had finally caught a break. "We found him. Vincent. He's holed up in a warehouse on the south side. We've got the building surrounded. SWAT is getting ready to move in." "When?" "Within the hour. It's going to be over soon, Connor. Lily will be safe." But something felt wrong. I couldn't put my finger on it. Just a feeling in my gut, the same feeling that had led me to room 713 all those nights ago. "How did you find him?" "Anonymous tip. Someone called it in this morning." "Convenient." Walsh frowned. "What are you saying?" "I'm saying Vincent has been invisible for 2 weeks. And suddenly someone just happens to know where he is? It feels like a trap. We've verified the intel. He's there. We've got eyes on the building. Just be careful." Walsh nodded and left. I stood at the window, looking out over the city, watching the traffic flow below like blood through veins. Chicago. My city. The place I had spent my entire adult life protecting. Lily came up beside me and slipped her small hand into mine. "Is it over?" "Maybe. I hope so." We stood there together, watching the sun set over the skyline, painting the buildings gold and orange. It was beautiful. Peaceful. For a moment, I could almost believe that everything was going to be okay. My phone rang. "Walsh. Connor, we've got a problem." The bottom dropped out of my stomach. What kind of problem? The warehouse was empty. It was a setup. Vincent wasn't there. And now we can't reach the officers stationed outside your room. Time seemed to stop. I spun around. The door to the suite was closed. Silent. Too silent. "Lily, get in the bathroom. Lock the door. Don't come out no matter what you hear." Her eyes went wide with fear, but she didn't argue. She ran to the bathroom, and I heard the lock click. I moved to the door and looked through the peephole. The hallway was empty. No officers. No one. I grabbed the phone. "Walsh, the guards are gone. I think he's here. SWAT is 10 minutes out. Barricade yourself. Don't open the door for anyone." I hung up and looked around the room for anything I could use as a weapon. A lamp. Too light. A chair. Too awkward. The fire extinguisher mounted on the wall. That would work. I yanked it off its bracket just as the door exploded inward. 2 men rushed in, professionals, moving with military precision. I swung the extinguisher at the first one, catching him across the face. He went down hard. The second one tackled me. We hit the floor, grappling. He was strong, trained, but I had spent 2 decades carrying people out of burning buildings. I had strength born of desperation and fear. I got my hands around his throat and squeezed. He clawed at my face, my eyes. I held on. Squeezed harder. His movements became weaker. Slower. Finally, he went limp. I rolled off him, gasping, and looked up to see a third man standing in the doorway. Vincent Marsetti. He was tall, broad-shouldered, with cold dark eyes and a face that showed no emotion. He was holding a gun, pointed directly at my chest. "Where is she?" I didn't answer. He cocked the gun. "I will kill you, and then I will find her anyway. Tell me where my daughter is." "Your daughter? You tried to kill her." "I tried to kill Vanessa. The child was collateral damage. But she's my blood. My legacy. And I'm taking her home. Over my dead body." Vincent smiled. It was the coldest thing I had ever seen. "That can be arranged." The gunshot was deafening in the enclosed space. I waited for the pain, for the impact, for the darkness. But it didn't come. Vincent staggered backward, a red stain spreading across his white shirt. He looked down at it in surprise, then collapsed to his knees. Behind him, in the doorway, stood Detective Walsh, her service weapon still raised, smoke curling from the barrel. "Police! Drop the weapon!" But Vincent wasn't holding the gun anymore. It had fallen from his hand when she shot him. He was just kneeling there, blood pooling around him, his face going pale. "My daughter," he whispered. "Where is my daughter?" "You don't have a daughter," Walsh said coldly. "You have a victim, and she's never going to see you again." Vincent tried to say something else, but his eyes rolled back and he collapsed face first onto the carpet. The room filled with officers, paramedics, crime scene techs. It was chaos. I just sat there on the floor, shaking, unable to process what had just happened. Walsh knelt down beside me. "Are you hit?" I shook my head. "Lily. She's in the bathroom." Walsh went to the door and knocked gently. "Lily. It's Detective Walsh. It's safe now. You can come out." The lock clicked. The door opened slowly. Lily stood there, her face streaked with tears, her eyes wide and terrified. "Connor." I got to my feet and she ran to me. I caught her and held her tight, feeling her heart hammering against my chest. "It's over," I whispered. "It's really over." Paramedics tried to check us both out, but I waved them off. I just wanted to get Lily out of that room, away from the blood and the bodies and the violence. Walsh arranged for a different suite on a different floor. Clean, quiet, safe. She stationed 4 officers outside, not 2. And she promised me she would stay in the hotel herself until everything was sorted out. "Is Vincent dead?" I asked when Lily was finally asleep in the bedroom. "Not yet. But he's critical. Even if he survives, he's looking at multiple murder charges. Arson. Attempted murder. He's going away forever." "And Lily?" Walsh's expression softened. "That's more complicated. Legally, Vincent has parental rights. But given the circumstances, given everything he's done, I think we can make a case for terminating those rights. And then Lily will become a ward of the state. Foster care. Unless someone steps up to adopt her." We looked at each other, the unspoken question hanging in the air between us. "Connor, you saved her life. You've protected her. You've given her stability when her whole world was falling apart. But adopting a child is a huge decision. It's not like being a hero. It's forever. I know. It would change your entire life. Your career. Your relationships. Everything. I know." Walsh smiled. "Then I guess we should start the paperwork." The next few weeks were a blur. Vincent Marsetti died in the hospital 3 days after the shooting. The investigation into the arson and murders took months, but with Lily's testimony and the physical evidence, the case was airtight. The Giordano crime family issued a statement distancing themselves from Vincent's actions. Life went on. I went back to work at Engine Company 47. Chief Morrison called me into his office on my first day back. "How are you doing?" "Good. Better. The counseling help?" I had completed my mandatory sessions with the department psychologist. Dr. Morrison. No, Dr. Rebecca Martinez. She had helped me work through a lot of things. The fire. The rescue. My tendency to break rules when my instincts told me to. My fear of losing people. Yeah. It helped. Morrison nodded. "Connor, I've been thinking about what happened. About your decision to go back for that last room. By every rule we have, you should have been reprimanded. Maybe even suspended." My stomach dropped. "But you saved a little girl's life. And in doing so, you exposed a murderer and brought down a crime family operation. So instead of a reprimand, the mayor wants to give you a medal. Firefighter of the Year." I didn't know what to say. "I don't need a medal." "I know. But you're getting one anyway. Ceremony is next month. Dress uniform. The whole thing." He paused. "I also heard you're going through the adoption process." "Yeah. It's slow. A lot of paperwork. Home studies. Background checks. But the social worker thinks I have a good chance. For what it's worth, I think you'll make a great father." The words hit me harder than I expected. Coming from Morrison, who had 4 kids of his own, who I respected more than almost anyone, it meant everything. "Thank you, Chief." 3 months later, on a cold November morning, I stood in a courthouse and watched a judge sign the papers that made Lily officially my daughter. She was sitting beside me in a new dress that Janet Holloway had helped me pick out, her hair pulled back with a ribbon, her small hand gripping mine so tight it almost hurt. "Congratulations," the judge said, smiling. "You have a beautiful daughter, Mr. Bennett." "Thank you, Your Honor." We walked out of the courthouse into bright sunshine. Lily looked up at me, her face glowing. "So I'm really yours now? Forever. Forever. And you're really my dad. If you want me to be." She thought about this seriously. "Can I call you Dad?" My vision blurred with tears. "I would love that." She threw her arms around me and I picked her up, holding her tight, this little girl who had survived so much, who had lost everything and somehow found her way to me. We went out for ice cream to celebrate. Lily got chocolate with sprinkles. I got vanilla. We sat at a small table in the shop, and she told me about all the things she wanted to do now that she had a real home. Get a dog. Learn to ride a bike. Go to a real school with other kids. "And I want to be a firefighter," she said seriously. "Just like you. That's a tough job." "I know. But I'm brave." "You said so." "You are. You're the bravest person I know." We finished our ice cream and walked back to my car. Our car now. I had traded in my old sedan for something bigger. An SUV with room for car seats and soccer equipment and all the things that come with being a parent. As we drove home, through the streets of Chicago, past the burned-out shell of the Windsor Hotel that was being demolished to make way for something new, I thought about that night. The night my life had changed forever. I had disobeyed orders. I had broken rules. I had followed my instinct to that last door. And behind that door, I had found more than just a life to save. I had found my daughter. Lily was singing in the back seat now, making up songs like her mother used to, her voice clear and happy. I glanced at her in the rearview mirror and she caught my eye and smiled. And I smiled back, knowing that for the first time in a very long time, I was exactly where I was supposed to be. Home. The first year of being a father was the hardest thing I had ever done. Harder than any fire I had fought. Harder than any rescue I had attempted. Because there was no training manual for this. No protocols. No chief telling me what to do. It was just me and Lily, figuring it out as we went. The apartment in Lincoln Park was too small, too dark, too full of memories of my old life. So I found a house in Jefferson Park, a neighborhood on the northwest side with good schools and parks and families. It was a small bungalow, 2 bedrooms, a yard barely big enough for a swing set, but it was ours. Lily picked out paint colors for her room. Lavender walls with white trim. We hung glow in the dark stars on the ceiling. Set up a bookshelf that quickly filled with stories. A desk where she could draw. A toy chest that was always overflowing. She started kindergarten in January, nervous and excited in equal measure. I walked her to her classroom that first day, her small hand gripping mine, her backpack almost bigger than she was. "What if the other kids don't like me?" she whispered. "They're going to love you." "How do you know?" "Because you're smart and kind and funny. And anyone who doesn't see that is missing out." She looked up at me with those serious eyes. "Will you be here when school is over?" "I'll be right here. I promise." And I was. Every day. Even on days when I had to trade shifts or call in favors or rearrange my entire schedule. I was there when that final bell rang, waiting outside with the other parents, watching for her face in the crowd of children pouring out of the building. She would see me and her whole face would light up. She would run to me and tell me about her day. About what she learned. About her new friends. About the boy who pulled her hair at recess and the girl who shared her lunch when Lily forgot hers. Normal things. Beautiful things. At home, we established routines. Homework at the kitchen table while I made dinner. Bath time at 7. Stories at 7:30. Lights out at 8, though she rarely fell asleep before 9. She still had nightmares sometimes. Still woke up crying, calling for her mother, confused and disoriented until I came in and reminded her where she was. Who she was with. "It's okay, sweetheart. I'm here. You're safe." And slowly, over months, the nightmares came less frequently. The fear in her eyes faded. She started to relax into her new life, to believe that it was real and permanent and not something that would be taken away. Work was different too. I couldn't take the same risks I used to. Couldn't stay late or volunteer for extra shifts or throw myself into danger without thinking about consequences. Because now there was someone depending on me. Someone who needed me to come home at the end of every shift. The guys at the firehouse noticed. Some of them teased me about going soft. Others, the ones who had kids of their own, understood. "Welcome to fatherhood," said Lieutenant Martinez, a veteran with 3 teenagers. "Everything changes. Your priorities shift. The job is still important, but it's not everything anymore." He was right. The job wasn't everything anymore. Lily was. I brought her to the firehouse sometimes on my days off. She loved it. Loved climbing on the trucks. Loved sliding down the brass pole with me holding her. Loved meeting the crew, who all treated her like their own niece. "This is where you saved me," she said once, running her hand along the side of engine 47. "This truck was at the fire." "That's right. And you were inside, looking for me." "I was." She looked up at me. "What made you come to my room? The other firefighters didn't." It was a question she had asked before, in different ways. And I never had a good answer. "I just knew," I said. "Something told me to check that last door. And I'm glad I listened." "Me too." She hugged me tight and I held her, right there in the apparatus bay, surrounded by the trucks and equipment and the smell of diesel and smoke. This place that had been my whole world for so long. This place that had given me purpose and identity and meaning. But it wasn't my whole world anymore. In the spring, we planted a garden in the backyard. Tomatoes and peppers and herbs. Lily loved digging in the dirt, getting her hands muddy, watching things grow. Every morning before school, she would run out to check on the plants, measuring them with her fingers, counting new leaves and tiny green tomatoes. "Look, Dad. It's getting bigger." "Dad." She called me that now without hesitation. Without the pause that used to come first, that moment of uncertainty, of checking to make sure it was okay. Now it was natural. Automatic. I was her dad and she was my daughter, and that was just the way things were. We went to her school events. Parent-teacher conferences where I learned she was excelling in reading but struggling a bit with math. Field trips to the zoo and the science museum where I was one of the volunteer chaperones, keeping track of a group of 6-year-olds who had boundless energy and no sense of danger. Birthday parties for her classmates where I made small talk with other parents and tried not to feel completely out of my depth. "Your daughter is wonderful," one of the mothers told me at a party in May. "She's so kind to the other children. You've done a great job with her." "Thank you. I'm still figuring it out. Aren't we all?" Julie came by once in a while. My ex-wife. We had stayed friendly after the divorce, talking occasionally, checking in on each other's lives. When I told her about Lily, about the adoption, she had been surprised but supportive. "I always knew you'd make a good father," she said over coffee one afternoon while Lily was at school. "I'm sorry we never got the chance to find out together." Things worked out the way they were supposed to. Did they? I thought about that. Yeah, I think so. "You're happy now, aren't you?" "With Michael." She had remarried the previous year. A tax attorney she had met through work. Nice guy. Stable. The kind of man who came home at 5:30 every day and never missed dinner. "I am." "And you're happy with Lily?" "I am." She reached across the table and squeezed my hand. "I'm proud of you, Connor. For opening your heart again. For taking a chance on love. It's not the same as romantic love. No. It's better. It's unconditional." Summer came and with it, new challenges. Lily had nightmares about fires. About being trapped. About losing me. The trauma counselor we had been seeing said it was normal, expected, part of the healing process. But that didn't make it easier to watch her suffer. "I'm scared all the time," she admitted one night after another nightmare. "I'm scared that something bad is going to happen. That you're going to die in a fire. That I'm going to lose you like I lost Mommy." "I'm scared too," I said honestly. "Every time I go to work, I think about you. about coming home to you. And it makes me more careful, more aware. I'm not going to take stupid risks anymore. Promise. Promise. But what if something happens anyway? What if there's a bad fire and you can't get out? I pulled her close. Then you'll go live with Julie and Michael. I've made arrangements. Legal arrangements. You'll be taken care of. You'll never be alone. But I don't want them. I want you. I know, sweetheart. And I'm going to do everything I can to make sure I'm here for a very long time. But if something happens, you need to know you'll be okay. That people love you and will take care of you. She cried herself to sleep that night, curled up against me, her small body shaking with sobs. And I lay there in the darkness, staring at the ceiling, making promises to God or fate or whoever was listening that I would be careful, that I would come home, that I wouldn't leave this little girl alone in the world. In August, we took a vacation. Our first real family vacation. We drove up to Wisconsin, to a cabin on a lake. We swam and fished and roasted marshmallows over a campfire. Lily learned to kayak, paddling in circles in the shallow water near the shore, laughing when she tipped over and I had to swim out to rescue her. "This is the best day ever," she said one evening as we sat on the dock watching the sunset paint the sky orange and pink and purple. Yeah. I wish we could stay here forever. We have to go back eventually. You have school. I have work. I know. But can we come back next summer? Absolutely. Every summer if you want. She leaned against me, her wet hair dripping on my shoulder. Dad. Yeah. I love you. The words hit me like they did every time she said them, with the force of something precious and fragile and impossibly valuable. I love you too, Lily. More than anything. Fall arrived and with it, first grade. Lily was confident now, excited about school, about seeing her friends, about learning new things. She joined the after-school art club. Made a best friend named Sophie who came over for playdates where they would spend hours drawing and playing pretend games with elaborate storylines I couldn't follow. Halloween she dressed as a firefighter, complete with a tiny yellow coat and red helmet that one of the guys from the station had gotten for her. We went trick-or-treating through the neighborhood, and every house we stopped at, people commented on her costume, asked if she was going to be a firefighter like her dad. "Maybe," she said seriously. "Or maybe a doctor. Or a teacher. I haven't decided yet. You've got plenty of time to figure it out." Christmas was magical in a way I hadn't experienced since I was a child myself. We got a tree, a real one that filled the house with the smell of pine. We strung lights and hung ornaments. Lily made decorations at school, construction paper chains and painted pine cones and a lopsided star for the top of the tree. "It's perfect," I said when we finally got it up there. "It's crooked. Perfect and crooked." She giggled. On Christmas morning, she woke me up at 5:30, bouncing on my bed with excitement. Dad, Santa came." We went downstairs, and she tore into her presents with the enthusiasm of a child who had spent too many Christmases with nothing. A new bike, art supplies, books, clothes, a stuffed dog she immediately named Rescue. "This is the best Christmas ever," she declared, surrounded by wrapping paper and ribbons, her face glowing with joy. And watching her, I realized she was right. It was the best Christmas ever. Not because of the presents or the decorations or the food, but because I was spending it with someone I loved. Someone who had changed my life in ways I was still discovering. The award ceremony that Chief Morrison had mentioned happened in January. Firefighter of the Year. They held it at the downtown Hilton, a big formal affair with hundreds of people from the department and the city government. I wore my dress uniform, feeling ridiculous and uncomfortable with all the attention. Lily sat in the front row, wearing a new dress, her hair done up in braids, beaming with pride. When they called my name and I walked up to accept the award, I looked out at the crowd and found her face. She was clapping so hard her hands must have hurt. The mayor gave a speech about bravery and sacrifice and dedication. About going above and beyond the call of duty. About representing the best of what it meant to be a public servant. But I barely heard it. I was thinking about that night. About the choice I had made. About the door I had opened. When it was my turn to speak, I kept it short. I didn't do anything special. I just followed my instincts. And those instincts led me to a little girl who needed help. A little girl who has changed my life in ways I never expected. So this award, this recognition, it's not really for me. It's for her. For every child who needs someone to open that last door. To check that last room. To not give up even when it seems hopeless. Thank you. The applause was thunderous. But all I cared about was Lily's face. The pride and love shining in her eyes. After the ceremony, dozens of people came up to congratulate me. To shake my hand. To tell me I was a hero. But the only opinion that mattered was Lily's. Did I do okay? I asked her on the drive home. You were amazing. I'm so proud of you. I'm proud of you too. You sat through that whole boring ceremony without fidgeting once. It wasn't boring. It was about you. Nothing about you is boring. We stopped for ice cream on the way home, our tradition now for special occasions. Lily got her usual chocolate with sprinkles. I got vanilla. Dad. Yeah, sweetheart. When I grow up, I want to be just like you. You're already better than me. How? Because you're brave and kind and you see the best in people. You've been through terrible things, but you haven't let them make you bitter or angry. You've chosen to be happy, to love, to trust. That takes more courage than running into any burning building. She considered this seriously. Do you think Mommy would be proud of me? The question caught me off guard. She didn't talk about her mother often anymore. Not because she had forgotten, but because it hurt too much. I think your Mommy would be incredibly proud. She gave everything to protect you, to give you a chance at a good life. And look at you now. You're thriving. You're happy. You're loved. That's everything she wanted for you. I wish she could see me. Maybe she can. I like to think the people we love who are gone are still with us somehow, watching over us. Do you really believe that? I want to. And sometimes that's enough. We finished our ice cream and drove home through the cold January night. When we got there, I tucked Lily into bed and read her a story, something about a princess and a dragon and a clever solution that didn't involve violence. She fell asleep before I finished, her face peaceful, one hand clutching Rescue the stuffed dog. I stood in the doorway for a long time, just watching her breathe, marveling at the fact that this was my life now, that this little girl was mine, that I had been given a second chance at something I thought I had lost forever, the chance to matter to someone, to be needed, to love and be loved in return. I went downstairs and poured myself a drink, whiskey neat, and sat in the living room in the dark. The house was quiet except for the furnace running and the occasional creak of settling wood. Outside, snow was starting to fall, coating the street in white. My phone buzzed. A text from Chief Morrison. Congrats again on the award. You earned it. See you Monday. I typed back a quick thanks and set the phone aside. Monday seemed very far away. For now, I was content to just sit here in the silence and think about how strange and wonderful life could be. How one decision, one moment of following instinct over protocol, could change everything. How opening that last door had led me here. To this house. This life. This child who called me Dad and meant it with her whole heart. I thought about Vincent Marsetti, dead in the ground. About Vanessa, who had died trying to protect her daughter. About all the wrong turns and bad choices and violence that had shaped Lily's early years. And I thought about how, despite all of it, she was still capable of joy. Still capable of trust. Still capable of love. She was stronger than any of us. Upstairs, I heard her cry out softly in her sleep. I was on my feet instantly, taking the stairs 2 at a time. But when I got to her room, she had already settled back down. Just a dream. Not a nightmare. I pulled her blanket up higher and kissed her forehead. She stirred slightly, murmuring something I couldn't quite hear, then went still again. Sleep well, sweetheart, I whispered. I'll be right here if you need me. And I was. And I would be. For as long as she needed me. For the rest of my life. Because that was what fathers did. They showed up. They kept promises. They opened doors when everyone else had given up. And sometimes, if they were very lucky, They found exactly what they were looking for on the other side. I had saved Lily's life that night in the burning hotel. But in the months and years that followed, I came to understand something profound. She had saved mine too.